I never thought my life would take this turn. When I left home at 19, I was convinced I was building a future, something solid, dependable, a world apart from the tiny cottage in the fishing village of Cresthaven where my parents barely kept the lights on. I told myself dreams and adventure could wait, that what mattered was a steady paycheck and a place to call my own. That's how I ended up here, in this grand house. When I met Cashin, he was 72, a man whose very presence seemed to shift the air in a room. He wasn't the friendliest soul, nor was he cruel. He just assumed everyone would fall in line, and in return, he'd offer a life of comfort beyond imagination. For a while, I thought that was all I needed. Now I'm not so sure. The estate is stunning, a massive seaside villa on the cliffs of Marisport, with polished stone floors that stretch endlessly under my bare feet and towering windows that frame the restless ocean beyond. Crystal lamps dangle from the ceilings, scattering light across rooms packed with furniture that looks like it belongs in a museum. To anyone passing by, I must seem like the luckiest 26-year-old alive. But inside these walls, an eerie stillness clings to me like damp fog. Cashin treats me kindly enough, as long as I stick to his rules. I still remember the first time I let my guard down here. It was 3 days after I moved in. I'd hoped it would feel like a fresh start, a moment to finally relax, knowing I'd escaped the grind. Instead, I sat on the edge of a velvet chaise, staring at my reflection in an ornate silver mirror, and saw someone I didn't know. I brushed away a tear just as Cashin's heavy footsteps echoed closer. He didn't tolerate vulnerability. "What's the matter?" he asked, his tone calm but his gray eyes cutting through me. "Nothing," I mumbled. "Just worn out from the move." He watched me for what felt like forever, then rested a hand on my shoulder. It was gentle, but firm, a quiet reminder. "Strong people don't dwell on what they've chosen," he said, his voice low, before turning and leaving me there. Since that day, I've learned to be what Cashin expects. I smile when it's time, nod along at the right moments, wear the outfits he lays out, and sit through his endless gatherings, pretending I care about the chatter of wealthy strangers. I'm the picture of the perfect companion, young, poised, agreeable. But late at night, when I lie in the massive bed in our third-floor suite, staring at the shadows dancing on the ceiling from the lighthouse beam outside, I wonder, is this really living? Would I have been happier back in Cresthaven, sharing a cramped room with a friend my age, scraping by on odd jobs but free to laugh and dream? I used to think security trumped everything. Now, I'm starting to question that choice. Cashin is a man of logic. He doesn't believe in whimsy or passion, only in agreements, in setups that benefit both sides. He's handed me a life most would kill for: designer clothes, a private chef, trips to cities I'd only seen in pictures. All he asks is that I fit the mold he's crafted. Yet, every time he adjusts my posture at the table or grips my arm a little too tightly to guide me through a room, I feel a piece of myself fade. I've got everything I thought I wanted. So why do I feel like I'm suffocating? Whenever Cashin heads off to his business luncheons in the city, I lock the tall oak doors behind him and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Alone at last. It's become my little escape, a ritual I save for these rare moments. I wander barefoot across the cool stone floors to the glass-walled sunroom, my heart already picking up speed. I dig out my old tablet from a drawer, scroll through playlists I made when I was 16, and tap play. Music floods the space, bright, upbeat notes from a song I used to blast in my attic room back home. A grin spreads across my face as the sound chases away the heavy quiet that usually rules this house. I spin across the floor, my loose sweater flaring out, giggling to myself like a kid. I close my eyes, letting the beat pull me back to who I was, the girl who didn't care about appearances, who hummed tunes while mending nets with her dad, who danced in the rain on Cresthaven's pebbled beach. I miss her so much. For these brief, secret minutes, I'm her again, twirling with my arms up, hair swinging loose, the music washing away Cashin's stern glances, his rigid schedule, his unspoken commands. Then I sense it, a change, like the air's gone still. Something's wrong. I freeze mid-step, my breath catching. The song blares on, but I feel exposed, like eyes are on me. I turn slowly, pulse hammering. There, framed by the sunroom's arched doorway, stands a man I've never seen. A stranger. I step back, hand flying to my chest as alarm surges through me. How did he get in? Is he a threat? Did Cashin send him to watch me? My thoughts scramble, but then he smiles, warm, relaxed, almost playful. Love the song choice, he says, his voice easy, like we're old friends. Hope I didn't spook you too much. I blink, caught off guard, my breath still uneven. I'm Torin, he continues, stepping forward with a casual shrug. You probably haven't heard, but I'm Cashin's son. My stomach flips. Cashin's son. My mind reels, heart still racing, but now it's for a whole new reason. Cashin has a son, someone he's never mentioned in the 2 years I've been here, playing the part of his flawless shadow. Yet here Torin is, tall, sandy-haired, dressed in a sharp jacket that fits the villa's vibe, but with none of Cashin's frostiness. He's younger than I'd have pictured, maybe 31, just a handful of years older than me. His face is angular but kind, his hazel eyes bright with curiosity, and that easy grin lingers as he looks at me. And you, he says, tilting his head slightly, must be my father's new guest? I swallow hard, a strange warmth tugging at me. Maybe it's because he's the first person in ages to talk to me like I'm real, not a decoration. Maybe it's how he smiles, like I don't have to shrink under Cashin's rules. I meet his gaze, wanting to say something, anything, but what? I can't tell him I'm not Cashin's fiancée, that there's no ring, that I just fell into this life chasing stability. I can't say I didn't even know he existed. So I settle on the simplest truth. I'm Vesper. His grin softens as he takes me in. He notices the slight shake in my hands, the way I stand like I'm braced for a reprimand, the habits I've picked up under Cashin's watchful eye. His expression shifts, not to pity or scorn, but to something like understanding. For the first time in years, I feel seen, and it shakes me to my core. The second he says he's Cashin's son, the walls seem to close in. I turn away without a word, hurrying up the spiral staircase to my room on the 2nd floor. My pulse thuds, my breathing shallow, but I keep my steps steady. I've learned not to show weakness. Cashin's rules echo in my head. If someone arrives, retreat. Don't speak, don't linger. You're here for me, Vesper, he'd said once, voice like steel. I don't let others interfere. I shut my door, pressing my back against it as I catch my breath. Cashin doesn't know Torin's here. If he did, he'd be furious, not out of jealousy over Torin, but over anyone who might disrupt his perfect control. And Torin had looked at me, not like I was Cashin's, not with demands, but with something open, something I couldn't name. I sink onto the bed, staring at my tablet, scrolling aimlessly to calm myself. Then a knock, light, almost unsure. Before I can respond, the door creaks open. Torin steps inside. Hey there, he says, his tone warm and teasing. Mind if I join you? I should say no. I should tell him to leave. But instead, I surprise myself. I'm not sure your father would like that. But I don't care. He chuckles, a spark of mischief in his eyes, but there's a depth there too, like he gets more than I'm saying. He steps in, hands tucked in his pockets. You bolted pretty fast. I glance at my tablet, pretending to focus. I had to. Always following orders. I swallow, keeping my eyes down. I don't really get a say. A beat of silence. Then, softly, I figured, that pulls my gaze up. No judgment, no sympathy, just a quiet knowing. And suddenly I'm talking. We end up sitting by the window, the ocean crashing below, chatting about playlists, old books, silly memories from before I came here. Torin's easy to talk to, funny without trying too hard, curious without pushing. He asks about me, not Cashin, not this life, just me. It's been so long since anyone cared. We grabbed tea from the kitchen at some point. I don't even recall pouring it, and I forget to be on edge. That's where I slip up. The door flies open, and my heart drops. Cashin stands there, his face dark with anger, his stare fixed on me. "What's going on here?" he snaps, his voice booming through the room. I flinch, the teacup wobbling in my hands. He strides forward, fury in every step. "I told you how I expect things done, Vesper." I try to speak, but nothing comes out. There's no excuse he'd accept. Torin stays quiet. He knows stepping in would only fuel the fire. Cashin's rage isn't about reason, it's about power. I've crossed a line. That night, he and Torin talk for hours in the study downstairs. I catch only faint murmurs through the walls. When Cashin finally climbs into bed, his expression blank, I sense something shifted. I sit up, and he speaks without looking at me. "We're getting married in 10 days. The words land like a weight. I clutch the quilt, trying to steady myself. I'd known this might happen eventually, but hearing it, 10 days, feels like a trap snapping shut. I don't argue. I don't fight. Where would I even go? He watches me, waiting for a reaction. When I stay silent, he nods, turns off the lamp, and settles in. I stare into the dark long after he's asleep, the lighthouse beam sweeping past. Morning comes with the scent of tea, sharp, soothing. For a second, I forget my reality. Then a hand brushes my hair. I open my eyes. Torin's perched on the bed's edge. A tray beside him. Tea, scones, a bowl of berries. He smiles, but there's a heaviness in it. "I hate seeing you like this," he says quietly, pushing a strand of hair from my face. "You don't deserve it." I look away, throat tight. He sighs. "You're not like the others my father's brought here, Vesper." His voice softens, hesitant. "I like being around you." My breath hitches. "I can't stand the idea of watching you marry him," he admits, almost too quiet to hear. "I might leave tomorrow." I grab his hand without thinking, holding tight. "No," I say, voice sharp. "Please stay." He pauses, surprised. I loosen my grip but don't let go. "I feel better with you here," I whisper. Like I can breathe. The silence stretches, thick with everything we're not saying. Then he shifts closer, resting a hand on my shoulder, steady and warm. I lean into it, closing my eyes. I've spent years tiptoeing, burying myself to fit Cashin's world. With Torin, I feel a flicker of something real. He takes me away that day. Bold as anything, he grabs the keys to Cashin's sleek convertible and drives us out before anyone notices. "Where to?" he asks, grinning as we peel down the cliffside road. "Anywhere," I say, wind whipping through my hair. For once, I decide. We head to Marisport's bustling downtown, little cafes where I sip tea without worrying about my manners, quirky shops where I try on hats and scarves I'd never have picked for Cashin's sake. We laugh over silly stories, wander the boardwalk, watch the waves crash. It's daring, wild, and I love it. For those hours, I'm not Cashin's shadow. I'm Vesper, and I'm alive. I don't want to go back. As we drive up the villa's winding path, I grip the door, half tempted to jump out and run. But I know better. The moment we step inside, the day's freedom fades. We're strangers again, nodding politely in the halls, sitting silently at dinner. Yet something simmers beneath. Quick glances, a brush of hands when we pass, a tension I can't shake. It's there when he looks at me across the table, jaw tight, or when I catch him watching me fold laundry, his hands stuffed in his pockets. It's overwhelming. That night, I slip out of bed. Cashin's asleep, his breathing deep. I ease out quietly, needing air. My head's pounding from holding it all in. Barefoot, I pad through the dark halls, the ocean's roar faint through the walls. I hate this place at night. Its endless corridors, its cold floors, its weight. Then I nearly bump into Torin. "Vesper," he says, voice low and playful. I gasp, hand to my heart. "You startled me." He grins. "Sneaking around looking this lively? I might have to keep you company." A laugh slips out despite myself. I should leave, pretend I'm fine, but I don't. "Torin," I say, half warning, half smiling. He steps closer, voice dropping. "Cashin might hear us." I giggle, then catch myself. "I'm serious," I say, trying to sound stern. "We can't keep doing this." His eyes flicker. "You don't mean that." I open my mouth, but he's right, I don't. This pull between us won't fade. I look away, then whisper what's been gnawing at me. "I'm marrying him in 10 days, Torin." What do I do? He falters. His jaw clenches, his hands flex. "I'll figure something out," he says finally, voice firm. "Trust me." The next evening, Cashin walks in with a box, setting it beside me with a smug nod, like he's done me a favor. I lift the lid, a flowing dress, pale blue, soft as sea mist. "Expensive, of course. 10 days from now," he says, voice steady. "I've reserved a spot at the Crest in town. My associates will be there. Torin, too. We'll make it official. It's not a suggestion, it's a command." I sit there, the fabric smooth under my fingers, heavier than it looks. In 10 days, I'll be his fully. Torin will see it all. The thought of facing him as I tie myself to Cashin makes my chest ache. But I'm stuck. The Crest is alive with noise, clinking glasses, warm chatter, the scent of roasted fish and wine. A party to them, a cage to me offline, gobbledygook me. I sit beside Cashin in the blue dress, a glass of juice in hand I barely touch. Torin's across the table, eyes on me, not smiling, not celebrating, just watching. Then, when no one's looking, he tilts his head toward the back hall. My pulse jumps. Cashin's distracted, laughing with a friend. No one notices as I slip away. I step into the hall, and Torin's there, pulling me close. Not too close, but enough to feel his warmth. "It's going to be okay," he says, voice low. "How?" I ask, hands shaky. He pulls out an envelope. Papers. A new ID, a fresh start. "Come with me. Tonight." I stare, heart racing. It's crazy, but I want it. A life with him, not this. "Say you will," he urges, eyes locked on mine. "Yes," I whisper, tears welling. He beams. But as we turn to go, the door sticks. I tug the handle, panic rising. "Torin, it won't budge." He tries to, but it's jammed. Voices approach. Someone's coming. The door flies open, and Cashin stands there, face flushed with rage. He looks between us, fists tight, then walks off without a word. Torin grabs my hand. "Let's go." We run, past the tables, out the door, into his car. "Where now?" I gasp as he starts the engine. "Somewhere new," he says, peeling away. We drive through the night, crossing into the next province by dawn. Torin knows a quiet harbor town where we crash with friends, plotting our next move. Eventually, we land in Port Elms, a bustling seaside city where I'm not Cashin's anymore, just Vesper. For the first time, I'm free, and I've never been happier. I chose myself, and I won. We tore away into the night, the clatter of a Crest restaurant shrinking behind us as Cashin's furious glare burned in my memory. Torin drove without a word, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, while I sat beside him, staring as Marisport's lights blurred into the dark. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and a wild, unfamiliar thrill. "Somewhere far," he answered, tossing me a quick, reassuring smile. That was all I needed. I leaned back, letting the cool wind from the open window rush over my face, tousling my hair. For the first time in years, my lungs felt full, not tight, not shallow. I was free, or at least starting to be. By dawn, We'd crossed the provincial line into a sleepy harbor town called Greystone Cove. The sky glowed with soft pinks and oranges, reflecting off the still water. Torin said he had a friend there who'd help us lie low. We pulled up to a weathered clapboard house near the docks, where Mira met us. She was a sturdy woman in her 40s, with short gray hair and hands rough from years hauling nets. She greeted Torin with a firm handshake, then eyed me curiously but warmly. "This is Vesper," he said, and she nodded like that explained everything. She showed us to a small guest room with a lumpy bed and a window facing the sea. I sank onto the mattress, exhaustion hitting me like a wave, and slept deeper than I had in ages. The next few days in Greystone Cove were calm but surreal. Torin and I hashed out our next move. He'd been in touch with someone in Port Elms, a big coastal city a few 100 kilometers north, where he thought we could start over. Mira gave us space, but I'd catch her watching me over her chipped coffee mug. One evening, as we ate fish stew at her scratched-up table, she fixed me with a steady look. "You really done with all that, girl?" she asked, spoon paused midair. I swallowed hard. "It was a cage back there," I said, my voice low. She grunted, a flicker of approval in her eyes. "Good. Freedom's not a gift, it's a fight. Remember that." Her words lodged in my chest, sharp and true. Soon after, we hit the road for Port Elms. The drive took hours, the landscape shifting from quiet hills to bustling streets. When we arrived, the city struck me hard. Tall, red brick buildings loomed over wide avenues, trams clanged past, and the air smelled of salt and sizzling fish from the markets. Torin led me to a creaky row house on the edge of town, home to his friend Lucas. He was a wiry guy with wild curls and a grin that came easy. A mechanic at the docks, he offered me a gig at his shop. "You'll get dirty," he warned, handing me a steaming mug of tea. I smiled, real not forced. "I don't mind." And I didn't. I wanted it. Those first weeks in Port Elms woke something in me. I threw myself into the shop, learning to fix boat engines and patch rusty hulls. My hands, once soft from holding Cashin's fancy glassware, turned calloused and stained with grease. I loved the ache in my arms after a long day. It meant I'd done something real. Torin worked the port too, hefting crates, and we'd meet up most nights on the row house steps, watching the sun melt into the ocean. We didn't talk about Cashin or that night. It was behind us, fading like a bad dream. The city had a pulse. Dock workers hollering at dawn, gulls squawking overhead, stalls creaking open along the waterfront. I started recognizing faces. The baker who'd slip me an extra bun, the old sailor who'd tip his cap. Lucas's shop was loud and cluttered, but it felt safe. He'd crank an old radio, and I'd hum along, a habit from Cresthaven I thought I'd lost. One day, as I tightened a bolt on a fishing rig, he laughed. "You're a natural, Vesper. Stick with this." I wiped sweat off my forehead and grinned. "Maybe I will." Some nights, I'd wake in my tiny attic room, heart racing from dreams of Cashin's cold voice or his hand steering me through a room. I'd sit by the window, the lighthouse beam cutting through the dark, and remind myself I was here, miles away, safe. Torin caught me once, bleary-eyed at breakfast. "You good?" he asked, sliding me coffee. "Just settling in," I said, brushing it off. He nodded, letting it drop. "You've got this." I was starting to believe him. At the shop, I met Nia, a wiry woman with a braid down her back, who hauled scrap to Lucas's place. She was blunt but funny, always ribbing me about my fancy villa hands, until I proved I could keep up. One afternoon, she brought in a busted motorbike and dared me to fix it. "Bet you can't," she smirked. 2 days later, when it roared to life, she clapped me on the back. "Not bad, newbie." That felt good, better than any praise Cashin ever gave. One morning, I walked to the pier alone. The sky was pale, the water glassy. I sat on a bench, an old coat around me, and let my mind drift. Cresthaven taught me grit, those cold nights dreaming of more. Cashin's villa promised safety, but locked me in. Now at 26, I had this. Rough hands, a job, a life I chose. Mira's voice echoed, freedom's a fight. I'd fought, and I'd won. Torin gave me a wooden gull trinket once, saying, "You're not stuck anymore." I kept it in my pocket, a tiny reminder. Months later, I climbed Wind's Edge, a bluff overlooking the sea. The wind whipped around me, the gull pressing into my palm. I wasn't running now, I was rooted. Port Elms didn't erase my past, it remade it. With Torin's quiet faith, Lucas's shop, Nia's jabs, I'd built something mine. I was free, happy, really happy, and that was victory.